My experience of raising two teenage boys, everybody always thinks teenage boys are the worst behind the wheel. But my experience of raising two teenage boys is that I know some middle-aged people who are a lot worse than my two teenage boys behind the wheel of a car. So I just gotta say, let's give some teenage boys some credit. Sometimes they actually are very responsible young men behind the wheel of a car, and teenage girls. He said, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth, good way to create a blind and toothless society.
Yeah, I feel like that speaks to the problem. So what are we supposed to do? If we can't retaliate in a way that gives us that satisfaction, what is our answer to kind of compartmentalize the trauma we've experienced?
But I think there's a difference in different situations. Like if I'm on the highway, my desire to retaliate is not, it's only going to escalate the situation and could cause a fatal accident.
Mm-hmm.
If my kids are being attacked by somebody or someone's breaking into my home, I'm going to retaliate to protect them. And there's a difference there in taking care of someone versus I'm just mad at you for what you did, so here's my response.
I think too that, so Paul talks about this in Romans 12:19. He says that God says, vengeance is mine, I will repay. And I think this is something I've talked about a lot with people who have been really seriously wronged by somebody, and they come into my office to, for counseling or whatever. Maybe they've had an abusive spouse and they've left that spouse, or maybe that they've had somebody else who has sinned against them in some big way. And they struggle because they're sitting there saying, I don't know how to forgive and move on. I have to recompense if I can, right? Driven by their own sense of God has forgiven me. How can I make amends? That's a good, godly, motivated type of behavior, right? So that's one possibility. The other possibility is they will never repent of what they've done. And then they'll face God someday, and God will say, now you're going to see what you've done, right? So I always tell people that, either that person is going to be forgiven, and God be praised, they'll change, or they won't be forgiven and God will take care of it. But the one thing you don't have to do is be the one to take care of it.
Yeah.
You yourself do not have to step in and deal with it.
You don't have a place.
And so, if we just apply what Jesus is saying here, I think that's the point he's making, is it's not yours to do.
Yeah.
You don't have to. And it's really very freeing, actually. What Jesus is saying here is releasing us from the responsibility of figuring out what the most just response is, because we trust that God knows the most just response.